Hello everyone, this is Robin Pearson from the History of Byzantium podcast. If learning more about Persian rulers makes you curious about their opponents, then do I have a show for you. The History of Byzantium will give you all the gory details on Justinian's wars with Khusro, leading up to the dramatic confrontation between Heraclius and Khusro II. The most dramatic and consequential war of all time, one could argue. So if you want to hear about the Roman perspective on those Persian wars, check out the History of Byzantium wherever you get your podcasts. For now, though, back to the show.
Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the rulers of Persia, from Diocles to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. I am Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, and my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 101, Umar II.
Ooh, exciting.
Where we've passed into our second century of people, and, well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
because...
we've been seeing how it goes.
Yeah, it's been going reasonably well.
Yeah. I'm not worried at all. It's
pretty
fine.
good. Surely if it's good, it means it will be good forever and nothing
Yeah,
bad will
yeah,
ever
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
That's how societies work. They peak and they never go down. It's great.
Yep.
But yeah. So, actually, we had a lot of sort of preamble for Umar II because, well, we were told by several people that he was the only good Umayyad.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out what's his deal, how does it work, is there any exciting stuff?
Yeah, he's got a big, I can't speak today, which is terrible for a podcast, We have been, I have no idea how you say this, like when you've been looking forward to something, so now you're like, our expectations are high, so he's got big expectations to fulfill. Yeah, that's totally what I wanted to say. I'm sure.
That's fair. I'll believe you. This works.
When
yes,
you say like, oh, he's got big
fill.
shoes to fill, but like, it's not, I'm not talking about like succeeding somebody. I'm talking about like just himself.
He has
like
big
with
shoes to fill regarding his own.
Yeah.
He has a lot to live up to. That's the word.
Hey, write to us with the actual expression.
Write to us with English.
Yep. Listen, neither of
We
us
promise
are,
we can
well,
speak
you
it.
are a English like speaker, like native without being native. Like you are bilingual, but I'm not.
Yes,
so
basically.
I'm allowed to make mistakes.
We're getting there. We're figuring out languages.
Yeah.
But yes, Sariel, so do you remember what was happening last time? Do you have... It's been a while since we
It's
recorded.
been so
do
long.
You have a memory?
It was an enjoyable episode, I seem to remember, because things are like going well. It seemed like everything was going all right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, we had a big empire, but we're like trying to make it not collapse, and as long as everyone follows the plan that the current ruler has put in place, then it looks like it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. So basically, what happened last time is we had Suleiman ibn Abd al-Malik, and
Yeah.
we saw that there was the Battle of Covadonga last time.
And
in
they
general, it seems
conquered
like...
Iberia when they weren't planning on conquering Iberia.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems like in general, he was trying to slow the expansion of the empire.
Yeah.
He was part of this Yamani faction, which was trying to make sure that the empire didn't just infinitely expand at a rate that was unsustainable. He just thought that maybe you should just chill out and focus on important parts to conquer as opposed to everything else.
Yeah.
And well, the big thing that he was working on was the siege of Constantinople.
Yeah.
So he'd organized a massive army, sent it over under his half-brother Maslama, and it was there, ready to take down the Roman Empire. But unfortunately for him, he died before he could see how to end it up, so we didn't really give him any points for it. We just said, well, he was promising to do that, but he died young, so that's all we have. So all right, let's get started with Umar II. Who is he? What is his deal? Well, Umar was born in about 680, but he wasn't the son of Abd al-Malik like our two previous rulers have been. He's not in that direct line of succession, but he's a cousin because he's the son of Abdulaziz, the brother of Abd al-Malik, who was meant to succeed but died before that could come to pass. So if you remember, during Abd al-Malik's reign, he was worried about the succession because his brother was meant to inherit, but his brother died 6 months before him, so that saved everything, and he could just make his son succeed. So that was easy.
Yeah.
You may also remember that Abdulaziz was made the governor of Egypt when it came back under Umayyad control during the Second Fitna, so this was back during the old civil war. And well, this means that Umar's birthplace is a little bit unclear since most sources say he was born in Medina during the Caliphate of Yazid I. But if he was a little bit younger, he may have already been born in Egypt, as some other sources claim. So we're not sure where exactly he was born. So he was either born just before the Civil War or just during. So he's on the edge there. In any case, he was educated in Medina and then came to the forefront after the death of his father, when Abd al-Malik invited him to Damascus to marry his daughter and Umar's cousin. But hey, it's royal families. Inbreeding is a thing.
Yeah.
We do this.
How else will you make sure that it stays in the family?
Yeah. But now, as cousin and brother-in-law of the new Caliph al-Walid, he was considered trusted enough to be given some governorships, because in this new system, the Umayyads are broadly used as governors, so we'll never have another civil war like we've seen previously. Yeah. And well, Umar is made governor of Medina and most of Hejaz. At the same time, Umar's sister was married over to the Caliph, tying the royal family even tighter. So, yes, it's a lot of cousin marriage, but it's important for stability and alliances.
Well, yeah.
And then, Serial, we got a bit of great news for Umar. Can you guess what happened to him as a young boy, hanging around with farm animals? What good thing could happen?
Regarding animals? Or like...
Yes. Regarding animals. Regarding a horse, specifically.
He was taught to ride?
Well, see, somebody was trying to teach him to ride, but unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case was, a horse kicked him in the face.
No! How is this fortunate?
Well, Serial, because there was a prophecy.
Oh my god! Because I'm like, he should be dead then. That's,
He's just mildly unwell. You know, he just has a scar.
Okay, that was very lucky.
Yeah.
Because usually if you get kicked on the head, that's it. You get really bad concussion and internal bleeding and external bleeding and just...
It was one of those light horse kicks to the face.
Yeah, you know, the very well-known light horse kicks.
Yeah, the ones they give you at spas just to make you feel a bit better. That one. Because, well, there was a prophecy that Umar I had made, the second of all caliphs, that he said that one of his descendants with a mark on his face would fill the world with justice.
Oh.
Well, Umar II now has a horse hoof printed on his face, so there we are.
I guess I will keep this in mind for the portrait.
Yes, definitely important.
But like, what?
Yep. If you're gonna learn how to ride a horse, you need to accept the risk of horse kick to the face.
I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully you learn and don't like go behind the horse. Anyway, I was gonna say something and it left my brain because, yeah,
horses.
Yep. So how fortunate.
Well, anyway, we have this prophecy. He'd fill the world with justice, and well, we see the prophecy coming true because as governor, Umar was praised for his skills and pious leading of the pilgrimage to Mecca.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was in Medina, he also oversaw Al-Walid's expansion of the Mosque of the Prophet. So he's doing a good job as governor. He's impressive. He's a pious man.
Yes.
Stunning.
We love that.
However, much like Suleiman, it seems that Umar was a member of the Yamani faction, and several enemies of the Viceroy of the East, Al-Hajjaj, had fled to him from Iraq, like they'd done with Suleiman. Umar welcoming these refugees eventually caused him to be deposed from his governorship and recalled to Damascus in 712. So he is trusted, but a bit less. There's this tribal politics going on. They're not so sure. And in that same year, he apparently took the occasion to participate in one of the many seasonal raids on Roman territory in Anatolia. Because we do 1 to 2 raids a year, and he was
just so they know
participating because
that
it's just so they know what their place is. It's important to
Yeah.
remind them from time to time.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the next years, Umar spent his time in Damascus, where he eventually became an advisor to the new Caliph Suleiman, together with the influential holy man Raja ibn Haywa. Here, he is typically depicted as a pious contrast to Suleiman. So we remember that story that Suleiman said, "Oh, we should just burn these lepers because they're noisy," and Umar
Yeah.
said, "Maybe
Or not.
no."
Or you can just ask them to not be noisy, and I'm sure they will happily. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And that's just the vibe Umar is bringing to the party.
I see.
But that doesn't mean that he was fully an ascetic man, because in this time he found the occasion to have 16 children, 9 of which from a concubine.
Yeah.
So growing the
But I
dynasty,
mean,
it's always important.
Yeah, that's sort of that. You can do that as a caliph or as a king in general.
But Al-Masudi tells us that there's a specific moment where Umar became the paragon of justice and virtue that he was.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll tell you the story. Because apparently he was about to whip one of his slaves for some contravention. And when the slave was about to be whipped, he said, "Well, why are you punishing me? What are you doing?" And Umar replied, "Well, you've done this thing that I'm not happy with, so you're going to have to learn."
Yeah.
The slave then asked, "Well, okay, sure, I'm being punished immediately, but have you, Umar, ever been punished immediately by your master? And if not, why should I be punished immediately after my misdeed?" Umar had a bit of a think, and then he had a change of heart, and he said, "You know what, that's a good point." And so he freed his slave, later exclaiming, "What sweetness is inside this God who doesn't immediately punish one who does wrong."
That's a great story.
Because, hey, if God is merciful, you should be too. Surely you should learn from the virtues of God.
Yeah. Is that true?
That's the vibe. We don't know if it's true, but that's what Al-Masudi tells us. It's a
Hmm.
nice story, and it gives you what Umar's vibe is.
Yeah. It very much could have gone the other way and be like, how dare you suggest that I should be punished? But I'm glad.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But he seems the type who's,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, no, fair enough. You make a good point. By the
I
way, have your
guess.
freedom."
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get to the critical point of succession, because when Suleiman got sick, this holy man Raja was able to convince Suleiman to appoint the trusted Umar as caliph.
Yeah, I was gonna
Making
ask.
him-
I forgot how we got to Umar.
Well, it's an interesting thing, because if you remember, Abd al-Malik said that his sons, first Al-Walid and then Suleiman, should succeed him. And well, Al-Walid succeeded and Suleiman succeeded, so Suleiman technically had a free choice.
Okay. Yeah.
The thing is that it's sort of unclear why Suleiman appointed Umar. There were different theories we saw last time, but in general, Suleiman tried to make his sons heir, but one of them died too soon,
Yeah.
and the other one was at the siege of Constantinople, so it was too far away to gain power, and that
Yeah.
would lead to power vacuum, and it's messy. And then at the same time, he had this holy man, Raja, saying, "Well, Umar's so virtuous and such a good man, and you trust him, and he's brilliant, so why not make him? He's your cousin anyway." And so Suleiman had gone to this compromise where he said, "Okay, Umar can succeed,
And then
also
goes back
because
to
he's one of
my-
the oldest in the family."
Yeah.
And then it goes back to that branch of the family. So Suleiman's brother, Yazid, is going to succeed after Umar. So essentially they're saying, okay, we'll bounce back and forth, and Umar's also not too old, but he is slightly older, so it makes sense that everybody
Yeah.
gets a turn. That's the point of succeeding laterally in your dynasty as opposed to vertically. And well, yeah, Umar was made finally caliph on the 24th of September, 717. But we do get an anecdote next to the end of Suleiman's life with Umar begging Raja not to propose him as caliph and trying to dissuade Suleiman from this. He's saying, no, I don't want this. This is terrible. This is a bad time.
Yeah, because all good leaders shouldn't want leadership, right?
However, Raja saw this, instead of Umar being humble, he saw it as Umar proposing himself, saying, oh no, don't pick me. I would never want to be caliph.
I see.
So he told Umar, that he must be very anxious to be caliph if he keeps insisting so much. The caliph doth protest too much.
This is such a reverse psychology.
Yeah, exactly. So Umar was embarrassed and said, all right, I guess I'll be caliph to show that I don't want to be caliph.
How?
I don't understand.
Yeah.
But anyway, he tried.
Yep. This all makes perfect sense.
But what's also interesting here is that there's a different tradition reported by Al-Tabari, where Raja had Umar written into the will of Suleiman, and then he had all the assembled Umayyads gather to give their oath of allegiance to the heir described in the document, without saying who it was.
Isn't this a problem?
It's a bit of a problem, because all the caliph's brothers said, yeah, no, of course, we'll definitely respect this. I mean, we've been doing this brother-to-brother thing. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, haha, suckers, it's Umar, your cousin.
How did that go down?
This caused a bit of an uproar, and
Sure.
Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik, who we'll see in the future, who was a brother of Suleiman and would have had a strong chance to be one of the heirs, objected very strongly and was only made to back down by Raja on threat of having his head removed.
Yeah.
So it's not a coup, but it's a bit of a soft
But
coup.
it could have been, yeah.
It could have been a bit of a coup, Again, Umar has this saintly image, so a lot of people try to say, oh, well, it wasn't him. It was this Raja trying to push him onto the throne. But who knows if Umar was involved.
Yeah.
I guess we'll discuss that a bit later. But at the same time, it looks like Umar wanted to show that he would be a different type of caliph. And after he was proclaimed, he returned to his tent instead of the caliphal palace, because Suleiman's family was still living there, and he thought, no, I'll just leave them their space. And then eventually he never really occupied the caliphal palace, because it was too luxurious for him. And he rode a donkey instead of the caliphal horse, just to make sure everybody knew what his vibe was.
Nice.
But as we mentioned in previous episodes, Umar was a member of the Yamani faction and was interested in limiting the caliphate's expansion with a focus on properly assimilating the conquered lands. Because we have a bunch of social issues that have been slowly simmering. Because if you remember, Serial, the thing is, originally, when the caliphate expanded, Arabs were superior to the local populations that were conquered, even if they were both Muslim.
Yeah.
And so this led to a contradiction, because the newly converted Muslims are saying, well, surely we're all the same now that we've converted. Why are the Arabs so important? And the Arabs retorted by saying, well, God revealed God's plan to Muhammad in Arabic, so surely God likes us best.
Yeah, because
So there's this whole thing going on, and it's social tension. So Umar's saying, well, maybe we should just calm down, figure this stuff out, and then we can expand more.
Yeah.
So as one of his first acts, he ordered the siege of Constantinople to be lifted. A few months in, since it had been a slow-going affair, the Muslim fleet had been hampered by the Greek fire of the Romans, and honestly, it's not worth it. Like, we could conquer it, I suppose, if we invested the time and money and energy, but it's not worth it. The empire's big enough. Let's just cut it out. So Umar withdraws. But we do get a fun story of how this ended on the Roman side, because the Romans tend to, as they would, they give themselves the credit of the caliphate leaving. While in Umar's view, it's not worth it. Well, we're told that the brand new Roman Emperor Leo III, who was from a Syrian family, was planning to hand over the city to the commander Maslama. But he told Maslama that the city wouldn't surrender as long as they saw that the caliphal army had so many supplies to withstand a long siege. They would say, oh, well, we can just wait some more, it'll be fine. They're not going to attack, it's a while. So Leo said that if Maslama was to get rid of his food supply, the citizens would know that a final attack was imminent and they would surrender straight away. Can you see the flaw in this plan, Serial? Good. Maslama did not, because he burned most of his food supplies, but Leo then said, well, I'm not going to be surrendering the city because you don't have resources to take it. So, bye-bye.
Like now it's over, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, off we go. We're not sure how realistic this is because it is a bit silly, and Maslama is known as a strong and talented general. In the future, he'll be there a lot, but maybe he was genuinely tricked. Who knows? To be fair, Al-Tabari and other Arabic sources mention this as well, so maybe Maslama was tricked this way.
Okay, so maybe it did happen.
Or maybe this was the way the Romans interpreted the fact that Maslama burnt the supplies he couldn't carry from the siege and then just returned home after Umar sent orders.
Yep.
So
maybe there was trickery, maybe they were just done.
Yeah, so who knows? As an end to this expedition, the Roman sources tell us that the retreating Muslim fleet was dashed by a storm, leaving only 10 survivors.
Huh?
Which is probably exaggerated, but presumably a storm did mess things up, which is unfortunate.
Oof. Yeah, that's rough.
It is still notable because, Serial, this is the last Muslim siege of Constantinople until the Ottomans came by almost 700 years later.
Ooh.
So, remember last time there was a prophecy that only somebody named after a prophet would be able to conquer Constantinople? Yeah. Well, it wasn't Suleiman, but it will be Mehmet or Muhammad the Conqueror in 1453.
Ooh, how fitting.
Yes, quite good. But all this withdrawal doesn't really mean that Umar wouldn't use force when necessary, because the Khazars, this nomadic people that live in the steppe beyond the Caucasus, launched attacks into Azerbaijan. Umar sent troops against them to stop the raids.
Mm-hmm.
And still, the yearly raids on the Roman front continued without too much change. Mostly because it's just kind of a ritual at this point. It doesn't have a practical
It's
purpose.
tradition. We just kind of do it.
It's basically partially training and partially it counts as a pilgrimage.
Yeah, okay.
So, it works, I guess. And incidentally, this is also when we get the first raids from Al-Andalus into what will become France, with the conquest of the city of Narbonne in 720, which sort of marks the maximum expansion of the caliphate in general. So it's all downhill from here, because this is as far as they go. They go to France, they take the southern coast of France, and then, well, everything is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Although it should be noted here that Umar did consider evacuating Iberia entirely, because it was just a raid that got out of hand.
Yeah,
so
we weren't planning on it, so why are we there?
Yeah, it's a whole thing, but eventually some of his counselors convinced him, no, actually, since we're there, we might as well keep it. It's been like a decade or so. It would be more inconvenient to just abandon it.
Mm-hmm.
But how is he dealing with the internal structure of the empire? How do we make sure that everything works? Well, Umar replaced several governors that had been appointed by Suleiman with some that were loyal to him, as most caliphs did.
Yeah.
He also decided to break up some of the larger viceroyalties in the east. So especially Al-Hajjaj had basically been in charge of the old Sassanid Empire. Umar decides, no, let's break that up. We need separate bits. So he broke it into 3 blocks. Kufa with the north of Iraq and Iran, Basra with the south of Iraq and Iran, and Khorasan with the bits bordering the steppe. And each of these report directly to the caliph. It's no longer this situation that we had a few caliphs ago where you have a viceroy and then a vice-viceroy. It's just, no. These people all report to the caliph personally. In general, it looks like Umar was very attentive and maybe a bit of a micromanager, because he did specifically issue a law forbidding the planting of trees on the shore of the Nile to avoid it from interfering with towing boats upstream. So that's part of it. But a big policy that he implemented was evacuating Syrian soldiers from the corners of the empire, because there had been grumbling, they'd been unhappy, and he entrusted the defense to more local soldiers who had converted to Islam. So remember that problem that we saw, Serial, where a lot of people were grumbling that, okay, well, why are Syrians better than us? Why
Yeah.
aren't we treated equally? Well, Umar's saying, okay, well, you can be in charge of your defense. You're not occupied by Syrian forces. The Syrians can stay closer to home. Everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, this adds a bit of risks of rebellion in the provinces because they do have a pre-made army, but things are stable enough and he trusts the governors enough that it should be fine.
Yeah.
And in general, Umar made sure to guide his governors in legal matters by sending letters with instructions on how to run court cases. So in particular, he seemed to enforce a double testimony to be brought by the accuser and an oath to be taken by the defendant.
Right.
So
Which we
if
still
you
kinda
have a
do,
crime
right?
and you only have one witness, that doesn't count. You need to have at least two.
Mm-hmm.
And then the defendant needs to take an oath to swear to tell the truth. So
Yeah.
I suppose fair enough, yeah. And in general, he was also concerned with increasing the revenue of the caliphate while making sure that new converts to Islam would have the same exemptions that more established Muslims benefited from. Because in general, if you converted to Islam, well, you weren't meant to pay the infidel tax anymore.
Yeah.
But some people were still paying this tax because, well, the caliphate needed the money.
Yeah. So they were like,
So it's
actually, just
just-
continue. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they're like,
what's
but
the
why
point
did
at
I
this point?
convert then? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And another issue was that Muslims were being made to pay taxes through land taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, they don't pay the infidel tax, but they still need to give some money by owning land.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that they were just abandoning those lands instead of cultivating them.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to pay taxes for it.
Yeah.
And so we had to deal with all this. We need to figure it out. So what did Umar do? He decided that newly converted Muslims would have the same taxation as other Muslims, but they could not sell their lands to other Muslims. Rather, their land became property of their villages, and so made the whole community taxable.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just abandon the land. So either you just change village, which is a bigger deal, or all the village pays the taxes together. So if it's your land,
Everyone will hate you.
everyone will hate you, but if you are growing food, that's
Yeah.
still a net benefit to the village.
Yeah. It's just if you leave.
Yeah, if you leave, then yes, it will be a bad time. And so this made things more fair for his subjects. So yes, you are taxed equally, but also made sure that yes, we still have our lands and we still get the tax money.
Mm-hmm.
Although in general, we should note that we don't really have detailed information here, and there was variation between different regions of the empire, so maybe Umar's reforms were not really a permanent solution. It was just something that was implemented differently. But despite all this concentration on taxes, it looks like Umar didn't really much care to keep the state treasury filled, but rather was generous in giving money to the poor, paying the army, and abolishing unjust taxes.
That's nice. Sounds good. Yeah.
Which means that now there is a clear economic incentive to convert. And there was so many people converting in Khorasan, at the border with the steppe, that the governor decided to impose circumcision as a test for would-be converts, saying, no, but are you really a Muslim, or are you just doing this for tax
Yeah,
reasons?
I feel like that's why circumcision is there. Because that is a pretty tough decision to make just to, pretend.
Yeah, it's like, for tax reasons, I guess people do a lot of things for money, but still, that would make people think twice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why Christians in general do not
Yeah.
circumcise people.
Yeah, because it
while
was a hard
Jews
sell.
do, because it was a hard sell, so the church fathers thought, maybe let's not do that. Maybe it'll be easier for people to convert if we don't tell them what to do with their genitals.
Yeah.
But anyway, this test was imposed on the new converts of Khorasan, but the people complained to Umar and said, well, you're not meant to be circumcised if you're a Muslim, right?
Yeah.
It's recommended, so it's a positive thing if you do it, but it's not obligatory. So you're not meant to be punished if you don't circumcise yourself as a Muslim. And so Umar decided, he agreed. That was honestly an unfair test for the governor to make, so he changed the governor and forbid the test, saying, God
We're not
sent
doing that.
Muhammad to call men to Islam, not as a circumciser.
Yeah. Damn.
Another possible reform of Umar's was banning non-Muslims from the administration of the caliphate and making them wear distinctive clothing. But I say possible because this may have been a later law that somebody said, oh, no, we're just doing it because Umar said so 100 years ago.
And they're like, did he?
And
Yeah.
we're not really sure if he actually did.
I see.
This is notable because Christian sources also mentioned that Umar was a good and just caliph.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they would probably have something to say about this if Umar was discriminating against them actively.
Yeah. Having a certain group of people wear distinctive clothing, like forcibly, purely to differentiate them from a different group of people and to facilitate discrimination is bad. You know?
It's not a great idea. We should probably not do that. And yeah, in general, as regards to other religions, Al-Tabari tells us that Umar forbid the destruction of churches, synagogues, or fire temples because we need to respect the local people. But he also forbid the construction of new ones, so a bit of a middle ground. I guess, like, he's trying to get more people to convert. I mean, evidently, with all this change in treatment of new Muslims. But he is not actively persecuting people. He's not going around saying convert or die. He's saying convert and you get a nice tax benefit. Hooray.
You make it a bit, give a bit of an incentive.
Yeah, exactly. Read our cool new book.
Yeah.
We promise, if you like it, you can get a tax bonus. So throughout his caliphate and beyond, Umar is seen as the good Umayyad caliph, exemplifying piety, humility, and equity. Because, in general, the people who come after the Umayyads, and no spoilers here, but they don't like the Umayyads, as most people who come after other people do. Because they think that the Umayyads essentially stole the caliphate from the just people, from Ali and the Rashidun caliphs, and frankly, they're all terrible, and they're all generally just self-indulgent, and not really good for the religion, they're just doing it for themselves. They call them more kings than actual caliphs.
Yeah.
But when they look back at Umar, they say, no, but he was one of the good ones. He was definitely the good caliph. He is actually close enough that he might count as an extra bonus Rashidun caliph because he is such a just and pious man. So that's really cool. And there were frequent references to the fact that he was descended on his mother's side from the second Rashidun caliph, Umar. So we have, again, this sort of line of succession saying, I don't know, yes, he's an Umayyad, but he's actually closer to the Rashidun caliphs. And, well, when asked Umar why he was being so just and pious and generous, he said that, well, by becoming caliph, he had achieved as much as was possible on earth. So now his only real goal was to reach paradise.
I see.
Al-Tabari tells us that while in Suleiman's court people discussed marriages and concubines, in Umar's court people discussed nocturnal prayers, study of the Quran, and fasting.
I don't know about that, but sure.
Yeah. While you spent your night partying, I was out studying the blade.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yep, yeah, it sounds very... I would rather do homework.
Yes, basically. There are also stories of his temperance, which match ones that we've seen for Ali and may just have been copies, which is that he would separately pay for the lamp oil he used for his personal reasons as opposed to the lamp oil he used for state business. So when he was talking to somebody of private conversation, he would turn off the public lamp and turn on his private lamp so he wouldn't spend state money for nothing. And he was just being reasonable. And this extended to those centenary prophecies that we've seen since we've reached the year 100 Anno Hejre, with some people, and perhaps even Umar himself, seeing him as the prophesied Mahdi who would redeem the world and renew the Muslim community. So everybody is vaguely saying, oh, well, we have a really pious caliph who's trying to renew the religion and trying to get people to convert. Is he the Messiah? We don't know, but it might be. Although, yeah, to be fair, or to be unfair to Umar, there are later reports that he was a typical Umayyad prince, fond of luxuries of his station, but that might just be a rhetorical tool for his redemption to look more impressive. So, again, he was a party boy as a young man, but then suddenly he saw the light and decided to become pious and just and humble and all that. Although hilariously, one of those stories shows Umar as a great lover of perfumes, and that nobody bought more perfume than him.
Mm-hmm.
And he had so much perfume in his clothes that the people of the city would pay extra money to have their clothes washed on the same day as his, so they could absorb his perfumes.
Oh, I see.
So, fun stuff. There's also a Roman tradition where he exchanged letters with the Roman Emperor Leo III, discussing philosophy and theology. And according to these Greek sources, Umar felt so ashamed by these letters that he made sure to treat Christians well for the rest of his reign. There's even an Armenian source that says that Umar went so far as to correct the Quran based on Leo's arguments, which sounds like a bit much. But they get along, is the point. And on the flip side, the Arabic sources, Al-Masudi tells us that Leo was distraught on hearing of Umar's death and said that if anyone after Jesus was worthy of bringing back the dead, it was Umar. So, I mean, again, it's unclear who was doing what, but it seems that he and Leo sort of respected each other at the very least and had conversations. At the same time, Serial, on his Rashidun side, it looks like Umar wanted to make peace with the Alids, since at his accession he refused to curse Ali, as had been done by previous caliphs. And also, when he was asked on his opinion of the Battle of the Camel and the Battle of Siffin during the first fitna that opposed Ali, he said, "It is enough that God has spared my hand from the spilling of that blood. I do not wish to immerse my tongue in it."
Okay, yeah.
He also issued reparations by paying each descendant of Ali and the Prophet a significant sum of money, saying, "Hey, I'm sorry what my ancestors did. That was messed up. But, hey, maybe we can be friends again. It'll be okay." And yeah, in general, he is said to have given plenty of money to the poor, the sick, and he gave stipends for every child who was weaned. So, your child is 2 years old, brilliant, have a bunch of money. So, that's nice. He seems like he's doing a very nice job. But then, unfortunately, Serial, when he was reaching about the age of 40, in February of 720, Umar fell ill on the road to Aleppo. According to some, he had been poisoned by the sons of Abd al-Malik, who wanted the caliphate to return to their side of the family. So in this version of the story, there was a Kharijite rebellion in Iraq. Remember those people that thought they were the only true Muslims and everybody else needs to be destroyed? Well, Umar debated their representatives, who were opposed to Yazid ibn Abd al-Malik being his heir, but otherwise thought that Umar reigned with justice and kindness, and actually he was doing a good job. They just disapproved of his heir. Well, Umar said, "Fine, but that wasn't my choice. It was Suleiman who decided this plan. I can't really go back on that. There's this tradition. And, well, the Kharijite said, "If you know he's not very good, just pick someone else. You know, it's Suleiman's dead. What are you going to do?" Yeah. And Umar said, "All right, give me 3 days. I'll think about it. I'll come back to you." And that's when he was poisoned.
Oh. Well,
according to one version of the story.
That went well.
But the thing is that, as we've seen, the historians writing about this time don't like Umar's successors. They say he's the only good Umayyad. So maybe they're just trying to justify why he would let a man that they consider unworthy succeed. And maybe he just died of malaria or one of the million diseases that you can get in the 8th century. So, who knows? Maybe the poisoning story just helps to show the Umayyad as this den of snakes. In any case, on the 5th or 10th of February, Umar died while oriented towards Mecca and left the caliphate to his cousin Yazid II, son of Abd al-Malik, as had been agreed upon on Suleiman's death. His last words were a verse from the Quran and were recorded by his wife. And they were, "As to this future mansion of paradise, we will give it unto them who seek not to exalt themselves in the earth, or to do wrong, for the happy issue shall attend the pious." So there we are. That is the end of Umar II's life, dying young yet again. All these later Umayyads are dying very young. Like Al-Walid also died in his 40s, Suleiman died in his 40s, Umar's dying in his 40s. It's all a tough time. But there we go. What do you think of Umar, Serial?
Well, he had good propaganda, I guess.
Absolutely. The sources
Like,
love
people
him,
love this
yes.
guy. Yeah. Very pious, very well put together, perfect boy. And I'm like, I feel like it's hard to get to know the person, when this is the case.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where, well, A, we don't really have contemporary sources. So
Yeah.
the only contemporary sources are like the Roman ones. And I don't even know if they're contemporary, honestly. But all the Arabic sources are written, call it 150 years after he's died. So it's a lot of traditions that have been carried down and transmitted, but how much can you trust this
Yeah.
versus, it's just been modified to fit an agenda.
Yeah, so I get that vibe.
Yeah, I can see that. But it is interesting to see that he is trying to fix the empire. He's trying to consolidate it. He's seen the problems and he's trying to see, okay, what can we do to make up for them? Also, the fact that he didn't live very long, and I won't spoil how long he reigned, means that still it was. We'll see in the next episodes, but it's unclear how much of an effect his policies ultimately did have because, well, he didn't really have much of a chance to see the long-term effects.
Yeah.
But yes, Serial. So are you ready to rate him?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? Either dying of some random disease relatively young, or being poisoned just before he was about to pick a better heir. And going that way. Being poisoned by his
Sad.
cousins,
Yeah.
first of all.
How unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. But I think it's been first death in a while that is actually not natural. Because the last one was Ibn al-Zubayr, who died in battle in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
Everybody else has mostly just died of old age or some disease.
Yeah. This is a bit more interesting. Poisoned.
This is cool. I like
it's
the
very
poisoning story.
dramatic.
It's fun that we get a whole scene.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm feeling maybe a 5.
That was my starting point as well. When
Yeah.
I think about it. So there's the fact that A, it's his family. B, it's a poisoning. That's cool.
Yes.
C, we get a story out of it. And then there's the young and potential. Who knows? Yeah, honestly, I think a 5 is good.
Yeah, right?
I'm happy with that. Yeah. Okay, so simple enough. With a 5 and a 5, he gets a 5 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? Well, the only bit that we have here in his favor is that he went on some of the raids. I mean, we have more bits in his favor, but the main personal bit is that he went on some of the raids into Roman territory. Just as a vibe. And then in general for the empire, we have that Narbonne is conquered in the south of France. He manages to fight off some Khazars on the border, which is right. And the big one, which I don't know if it's negative, I guess it depends how you want to see it, but is that he retreats from the siege of Constantinople. So do we want to believe the Roman sources that the general in charge, Maslama, was tricked, and so they essentially lost the siege and had to run home with their tail between their legs? Or do we want to believe the more caliphal side, which said that Umar just realized that this would have been a bit of a faff and it's not worth it, and we have other things to worry about. These resources can be better spent elsewhere. What does your instinct tell you about what really went down?
I mean, I'm not sure. If it were only the Roman sources mentioning this, then I would definitely be like, oh, they just left and the Romans just like built whatever story.
Mm-hmm.
But if it also appears in our sources...
Yep. Playing devil's advocate on that, it could be that the historians writing this were using Roman sources.
Right,
like,
because
I have this Greek
so
thing
it doesn't
to tell
appear
us.
in like actual contemporary sources.
It appears in later sources. So
Then
it could be that they drew from it, but it could also just be that that's what they recorded as well, on their oral stories.
that makes me more
what they
unsure about it. Difficult.
Complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's for sure an interesting story. It would be really silly if he gave up the siege because of that. But he also didn't feel like he was very invested in it, right?
No, exactly.
Like he did want to
his whole
stop it.
policy is we need to stop expanding and consolidate.
Yeah.
That's his main,
So
foreign
I
and
think he
internal
would
policy.
be going for that.
And it's also not his siege. It's the sort of, it was his predecessor who sent it. So it's not like he's saying, oh, we tried, and it's not. It's mostly saying, oh, I've come to the throne. The siege sounds like a pain. Let's just pack up and go home. So I'm broadly inclined to believe that it's Umar withdrawing, but opinions are open. So in general, just for his military prowess, I'd say 1 point for the raids into Roman land, 1 point for Narbonne, and 1 for the Khazars. So 3 points. The Caliphate does reach its maximum expansion, but it hasn't expanded much compared to Suleiman's time. So yeah, I'm sticking with a 3. What are you doing, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm matching you.
Okay. So with a 3 and a 3, we get a 6 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and manipulations? He is not a very schemy man. He has a few touches here and there. So first of all, when he was a prince, he did host rivals of Al-Hajjaj against the caliph's wishes, which eventually did get him deposed. It's a little bit sneaky. And then the main other bit is the succession. Because it depends how much we want to claim that he is involved in it versus Raja is. Because, first of all, there's the whole thing about, oh, I don't want to be caliph. And Raja's saying, oh, yeah, that means you want to be caliph. And so like, so I want to be caliph?
Yeah.
Like, well, so you said you want to be caliph, so you'll be caliph. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What am I meant to choose here? And then there's the whole, oh, I promise to support whoever's written in this document. And it's like, surprise, it's Umar.
That is very, like, what? What are we doing?
Yeah, again, the sources do have a clear interest in making Umar the squeaky clean golden boy. And so, did he just get a deathbed confession out of Suleiman and say, well, I'm caliph now, hooray?
Yeah.
Or do you reckon he was genuinely saying, oh no, I really don't want to do this. This is too much. And then he was thrust upon him, and so he tried to do the best with the position he was given.
He doesn't strike me as a very schemy man.
No, not really.
I have to say.
But again, it doesn't have to be an evil scheme.
No,
it could be a
no,
scheme
it
where
can
he
just
said,
be
oh, for the good
smart.
of the caliphate, we can't have it go to some other of Suleiman's brothers who are incapable of ruling. I should be in charge. It's going to be a sacrifice, but I can do this.
Yeah.
So I'm going quite low. I'm thinking like a 2-ish, because 1 for the hosting enemies of the state, and 1 for the suggestion that he may have soft cooed, but no more than that, really.
Yeah. I see that.
You're matching as well?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really have a counter argument. I think we agree on I don't think scheminess was like the main way he was doing things. And yeah, there were like a couple of things where you could be like, a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so with the 2 and a 2, he gets a 4 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? If anything, he is shocking in a good way. I mean, there's a few things that you could say are shocking. So first of all is he abandons the siege of Constantinople.
Yeah. Which you're like, okay, but you were doing well, so why are we leaving?
Yeah, exactly. You could say, this was the largest army ever gathered. You could have done well. Why did you choose to do this?
Yeah.
And it's like, clearly the point was he thought it was unsustainable, but
yeah,
that is a bit shocking. That it doesn't often happen that empires who are besieging a city just decide, let's go home. It's not worth it. Yeah. So that's part of it. He also proposes to just abandon Iberia and say, let's just go home. Do we need this place? It's fine. So that's part of it.
He didn't love conquering, I guess.
He didn't love conquering. And then in general, for his policies, there was the maybe having people wear distinctive clothing if they're different religions. we're not sure if that's the case or if somebody was just claiming that Umar did that for their own interests, but that's something that's there. That's a nugget. If you want, you could consider the fact that he has been appointed by Suleiman in this weird circumstance. So he's a cousin, and yet he is succeeding against the precedent we've set. So that's a bit weird. So we have some of that. And then, I mean, there's one very intense rumor, which is that he, according to the Christian sources, he changed the Quran because the Roman emperor told him to. But that sounds a bit unlikely.
Are we sure? Yeah.
I don't think there's any evidence of this actually happening. But And well, there's the general shocking of he is just a nice guy and is not living in the palace.
Yeah.
He's taking care.
I mean, I do think he is shocking, like, as a person, as a character. I think that's also why there's so many stories about him. How much of that is true, I don't know. But, like, obviously he had to have some sort of this be part of his personality, because everyone seems to agree that he was,
truly, because otherwise nobody and it's really impressive because even people who hate his family think, no,
they're like, okay, he was fine. Yeah.
He was actually fine.
I think that deserves extra points, because I'm actually quite, like, I thought I was going to be more impressed by him. I don't know if it's just, like, the sort of sources that we have that are a bit like, It tends to happen when people become more legend than people. Yeah. That, like, it makes you feel more, like, separated from them.
Yeah, you'll also find out in lengthiness that he doesn't rule for very long. So I feel like
that would make sense, yeah.
Against him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think shock factor, let me sum it up. I would say 1 for the being a cool dude, 1 for withdrawing, 1 for weird succession, and I think 3, I might be convinced to a 4. What are you doing?
I think I'd go to a 4. I do find him as a person shocking and interesting.
That's fair.
I think he deserves it.
Okay. In that case, I suppose I'll stick with a 3, and we can just average it out. And yeah, with a 3 and a 4, he gets a 7 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Aaron Shine. How good was he for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Well, he does a lot of very helpful reforms. So that's quite nice. So, well, first of all, let's look at what he does for Iran, and then we can look at the Empire in general. For Iran, he sort of splits it up into 3 parts. That makes the governorship more effective and less prone to corruption, which is quite nice. And then when people in Khorasan are converting and being forced to be circumcised as a test, he says, hey, no, cut that out. That's not cool.
Hey, we're not going to get any new followers if you're doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty good. For Iran itself, I'd say that's a mild improvement. No massive changes, but pretty good. For the Empire in general, we reach the maximum expansion. We get a bit of southern France. He manages to keep away some nomads, which is pretty good. We stop a costly war with the Romans. So again, I don't know if you want to see that as a prestige loss, where you say, yes, but we're now retreating from the city. Or if you want to say, no, actually, that was just an expensive war that would have just caused us more headaches. So it's better that we just have this money and use it in different ways. So that's part of it. Then, in general, he's just really good at reforms. He's trying to address the social issues that we have. So he's basically making non-Arab Muslims equal to Arab Muslims. And saying, hey, you get to pay the same amount of taxes. You are treated equally. Also, at the same time, he sort of stops people from abandoning their land so they don't have to pay taxes on it. And now the community pays taxes on the land. And, well, that means that land is being used better. It's being more cultivated. It's just a nice way to go about it.
True.
And then in general, he is just a pious man who gives money to the poor. He gives money for new children because raising a baby is expensive. So make sure that works out. And he is just generally known as a good governor and administrator. Like, even just as a governor before he is caliph, everybody kind of agrees he does a good job and he is capable and skilled. So, see, I feel like the problem here is that if he had lived longer and if he had managed to sort of reform the caliphate entirely and just quench all these social tensions that were happening and just make sure everybody was happy with it, then I think, oh yeah, 9 or 10. As is the case now, he started things, but he doesn't get to see them completed. And, well, we'll find out how that plays out in the next episodes. But I think I'm somewhere between a 7 and an 8. I'm trying to think about what's a good choice. What are your thoughts?
I think, why not an 8? Like, what is detracting?
I think what's detracting is that, so I think I always love large sweeping reforms like his. That's very good. But the problem is that he doesn't have the time to properly see it consolidated. Like, if you had Umar and he reigns for 30 years and everybody just accepts that this is the new way of life and everybody is happier, then absolutely, I'd give him even more. But as is the case, he had a good idea and he put it into place, but he doesn't manage to reap the fruits of it as much. So, I don't know. I'm floating in between a 7 and an 8 because he is just, I guess I could move up to an 8 by adding in the fact that he is religiously tolerant despite having this push for conversion. So he's saying you can't destroy churches, synagogues, and fire temples. That's not on. And also, the Christians praise him as a just king.
Yeah.
So surely he must be doing a good job there. So, I think I'm going to go for an 8. I feel like it's, it's not
That was my, like,
huge.
my impression or
I'll
my push. And that's why I was asking, because I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, fair. I'll follow that. So with an 8 and an 8, he gets a 16 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. We've had a group of... These Umayyads are great at their job.
Dang.
Because...
Would you agree? Like knowing the history.
I mean...
Does that make sense?
Exactly. It makes sense. Yeah, it's fair enough. But it's just... I mean, it's just funny because the sources hate them so much.
Why? Why is that?
Worst, and they're
I am curious
gross.
about that.
It's mostly personal failings.
Yeah, well...
As they see it. And it's also kind of true. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at it, like, Al-Walid I, he mostly just sat in Damascus living a nice life. And the caliphate just ran itself and just expanded massively. So I think they're doing a good job, but it's not... you can see how it's kind of unfair.
Yeah, it happens during their reign, but not necessarily because of them.
Yeah, it's like seeing a Nepo baby become a millionaire, right? It's
and you're like,
okay, yeah, good, but, you know.
But it would have been hard not to. Like, you would have had
So,
to be the worst.
Again, we'll see, but in this early phase of the caliphate, things are going so well that you really have to work hard to mess it up.
Yeah. Can't wait until that happens. I'm sure it will happen.
In fairness, these people are doing a good enough job, but still, it's wild. So we've had Al-Walid I as the best of the new series, then Abd al-Malik being the second best for, essentially building the empire from the ground up, and then Umar II is now our third for trying to reform it and address some of the issues that we see have been creeping up on us. So with an 8 and an 8, he gets a 16 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man looked like?
Oh.
And I have a quote, Serial.
Oh, hooray.
It says, he was dark, his face had delicate features, he was handsome, slender, had a well-groomed beard, was sunken-eyed, had a scar on his forehead, and had grey hair. However, weirdly enough, according to a different source, he was a fair-skinned man with a small face, handsome, of slight build, with a well-groomed beard, and sunken-eyed. He had the mark of a hoof on his forehead, for which he was nicknamed the broken-headed Umayyad, and his hair was grey.
Okay, well, I need to choose then.
Yes, there's confusion around his complexion. Everybody agrees he has sunken eyes and a scar on his forehead.
Yeah, it's like, okay, there's some...
Unclear if he is dark or fair-skinned. Okay, so Sarah has finished their drawing. Let me pick it up and I'll describe it to you all. Ooh, that's really cool. I love it. It's great. Stunning.
Thank you.
So, what we have is an extremely contrasted drawing where we see Umar's left side of his face deep in shadow, the right deep into the light. And you can see that he's wearing there a humble turban over the top of his head, and then on his forehead you can see quite prominently the scar of a horse hoof that has been imprinted into his head. He has a short, well-groomed beard. You can tell it's a little bit gray. And he looks very serious. He looks like a man who is either tired of your bull or just very determined.
Fair enough.
Whichever the case may be. And yeah, it just looks very cool. Can't tell what the brush looks like, but it looks very crayon-y.
Yeah, it's like a
That's the right
pastel.
word. That's the word.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. Looks very cool. Brilliant. So if anybody wants to see this gorgeous portrait of Umar II, you can go to the episode notes down below,
Hooray.
on our Discord if you're a patron, or on our website in Cyril's portrait gallery. Okay, now Cyril, do you want to see what he looked like?
Yes, of course.
Unfortunately, once again, we have no images.
Of course.
It's been
Well,
a few.
then.
It's going to be a bad time.
Well
but yeah.
then. Why even
We'll
ask?
see. Yeah, it's a tough time. But here we go. So he gets a 0 and a 0, which make a 0 out of 5 for Face of Faces. Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned? So we've established it's not very much, but how much is not very much?
2 years? That might be too little.
Almost.
Oh, really?
It's close enough. He reigned for
Dang.
3 years.
Oh no.
So he reigned from 717 to 720. So you can tell he tried a lot of cool things, but whether or not they're actually implemented is a different question. So yeah, take 3 years divided by 10. He gets a 0.3 out of 5 for lengthiness. Which brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 38.3 out of 100, placing him, for our new series, in between Al-Walid I and Suleiman, his predecessor. So he's not the highest one we've ever had. He's not very scandalous, but he is one of the better for Aaron Shai. But he doesn't do much war. He doesn't do much scandal. He is sort of losing points for that. But that places him exactly above the highest non-Shahanshah and just below the low Shahanshah. Which leads us to the final question, which is to say, is he pious enough? Is he horse-hoofed enough? Is he nice enough to be a Shahanshah, or is he just a Shahanah?
I feel like you shouldn't call him horse-hoofed. That's mean.
No, probably not. But yeah, do you think he deserves it? He is in that sweet spot. He is in the middle ground. So does he feel like the sort of caliph where you say, oh yes, no, definitely I'll remember him. I'll remember his vibe. Or do you think that, he
I
was
think
nice
I probably
and maybe
remember
if he had
just
reigned
that
longer-
everyone loves him. But I honestly don't have much of an opinion
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah, I don't know.
If he had reigned longer, for sure. But he didn't. So...
Yeah. I feel like the main thing about what would you tell somebody about Umar II? There was this one caliph
just generally
who was
good. I don't know.
just generally
like,
pious and did a solid job. It's just like, I agree.
yeah.
He did a good job, and fair enough, he deserves praise for that, but he isn't memorable saying, oh, he is the one, like, Al-Walid I was on the fence for, but Al-Walid was like, oh, he's the guy who took over Al-Andalus.
Yep.
He's the guy who saw the greatest expansion of the empire. He restored everything and presided over Golden Age. That's pretty good. I don't think Al-Walid's going to get to the end of the rounds, but it was solid. Umar, I think, is fine,
Nope.
but not really going to
I don't see it.
cut it, I think. All right. Then, sorry Umar, but you are a Shahanah. You can go off into the desert and meet Suleiman and say that, well, you did a good enough job after you've been appointed, but not good enough to be called a Shahanshah. So there we go. That is the end of today's episode. We hope you had a nice time meeting Umar II, the only good Umayyad. And we hope you'll join us next time for Yazid II, who I will preface is absolutely not considered the only good Umayyad. He's probably considered the second worst Umayyad. So we'll find out.
Okay.
Only because his son is the worst.
Interesting.
And I'm looking forward to talking about his son. So we'll get there. In the meantime, if you'd like to support us, there are many ways to do so. You can support us on Patreon, where you get access to a bunch of extra episodes. If you missed it, last episode was a preview for one of our Patreon episodes on Alcibiades. And currently we're going through a mini-series that is the highlights of the Tang Dynasty, where we've done Emperor Gaozong. We are going to do Wu Zetian this month, and then afterwards is going to be Emperor Xuanzong. If instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine, but we'd appreciate if you could give us a review on your podcast app of choice so other people know that we exist and can join us on the adventure. And yeah, that is all we have for today. We hope you have a lovely time, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.